Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today. Today we have Andrzej Sadej is currently the head coach of the Canadian visually impaired judo team. He also serves as the coaching and education director and the sport director with Judo Canada. In cooperation with the Coaching Association of Canada, he is responsible for the development, delivery, and management of the coach education programs for judo in Canada, the development and update of the long-term Canadian judoka development model, and the coaching of Canadian Paralympic judoka. Mr. Sadej, a 7th Dan black belt in judo, is a 7-time national Polish champion, 5-time European Championships medalist, and 3-time University World Championships medalist. Along with Mr. Sadej, we have Priscilla Gagné, is now based in Montreal and trains at the Judo Canada National Centre at the INS Quebec. Priscilla was the flag bearer at the opening ceremony for Team Canada at Tokyo 2020 and won the silver medal at those Olympic Games. Congratulations. Let me just let a few more people in. I'm sorry. Okay, she has 4 degrees of peripheral vision with no central vision and is considered blind. Priscilla started judo in 2008 after practicing karate, moved to Sarnia at age 3 from Granby after her parents separated. She graduated from the evangelism program at Rhema Bible College in Oklahoma and graduated from Everest College's Addictions and Community Services Worker program in Barrie, Ontario. Her awards include silver at the 2019 Pan American Games, crowned Pan Am champion in 2018 and 2020, bronze medal at the 2018 World Championships. She competed at her first Paralympic Games in 2016 and won her first World Cup medal in February 2015, silver at the 15 Pan Am Games in Toronto, silver in the 2016 IBSA World Cup in Germany, bronze in the 2016 IBSA World Cup in Brazil, and bronze in the 2016 IBSA World Cup in England. And I believe you have one more to add to that list, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. It's all yours.
We managed to get silver at the World Championships that we just had in 2022.
Congratulations. Thank you.
And there were number of other performances from Priscilla that happened between the 2020 and 2022. However, the important part that she already said is with the new classification standards that just started as of January 1st of this year, when blind people no longer compete against visually impaired, there are 2 separate classification divisions in our sport. But that also resulted in the fact that there is limited number of weight divisions. We used to have 6 weight divisions for females, 7 for males. Now with the new classification, because of the number of Paralympic events is limited by the International Paralympic Committee, we have only 4 events per classification. So Priscilla no longer was able to compete in that division where she won a silver medal in Tokyo. She had to move up, she had to bulk up and with strength training increase her muscle mass, and now she competes in a different weight division, higher weight division, which means there were challenges. We have had a number of people whom we didn't know she is going to face, and her silver medal in the recent World Championships is a great success. Although, of course, we were hoping for gold, and that was the aim when we went to the competition, but that is going to come in the future. I'll start the presentation with 3 short clips, short video clips that I've chosen from a variety of different available sources, and I hope that this is going to bring you closer to understanding what judo is and what Paralympic judo is. And after those clips, I'll introduce ourselves once again. I'll say a few more words about judo. I hope this entire introduction process is not going to take longer than 5-6 minutes, after which I hope you are going to have questions, because the last thing we want is to make presentations, visual presentations for an athlete who cannot see, because then she's going to sit there and will be very bored. So I'll start with first presentation is a promotional video produced by Judo Canada, and hopefully I'm able to share the screen. Am I now? That would be this one. I apologize for my
No worries, take your time.
challenges. Yes.
You're better than me.
Kids Rehabilitation Hospital is using sport to better the lives of their clients. Up first, though, we hit the mat with para-judo athlete Priscilla Gagné.
Do you see it now?
Perfect, yes.
Translated from its native Japanese, judo means the way of gentleness. Which is quite ironic when you observe Priscilla Gagné throwing her training partner around a judo mat. Or competing on the international stage. It doesn't look gentle at all, and quite frankly, that is one of the things that Priscilla loves about judo, the ability to inflict her will on her opponents.
Ultimately, the best is just throwing them on the back. Like, it's satisfying. It's surprising. You always go for it, but when it happens, you're like, oh. And tapping out is really fun. You feel like that's right. You know, like this satisfying feeling of, I hope you're okay, but that's okay.
It may sound callous, but the drive to dominate an opponent in this violent waltz is a necessary element of the mental makeup of all combat sport athletes. Another is the drive to develop their craft. Priscilla felt that desire when she first started the sport 10 years ago.
Okay, I'll new share. Do you see the Paralympic Games opening ceremony?
Yes.
Okay, so
The Canadian delegation led by judoka Priscilla Gagné, 128 strong. They've arrived on this grand athletic stage in the midst of an incessant pandemic. With the cauldron now lit, the competition can officially begin.
okay, this is pretty much what I've prepared. Those sharing exercise should be over for now. I will open a PowerPoint presentation that I've prepared for this meeting, and I add a few more words to my presentation. Do you see the shared screen with challenges to social transformation in arts, Marshall?
Perfect.
Okay, so this will be short, I promise. The first slide presents Priscilla sitting on the mat in Tokyo after she won her match against a German opponent. That was a semi-final match that placed Priscilla in the final. Interesting fact about this match was Ramona Brusik from Germany was a two-time Paralympic champion, and she competed against Priscilla prior to the games in Tokyo a number of times, and Priscilla was never successful. When we were preparing for the games, Priscilla designed a very specific tactical approach and technical approach how to fight this German, knowing her quite well, and she was extremely successful. She defeated the opponent within 25 seconds with two beautiful throws. Priscilla is not a young chick. She is a very mature individual, very mature female. A majority of the athletes who compete at this stage in able-bodied judo are in their early 20s, late 20s. Very, very few athletes can reach world-class performances beyond their 30s. In the Paralympic judo, there is quite a few athletes who are older. Priscilla, as you've heard, started judo quite late in her life. She was 22 years old. So it took many years before she was able to compete at this stage with success, but she is very successful. As I mentioned already once, Priscilla was the only blind judoka who competed for a gold medal in Tokyo. Of all of the male and female weight divisions, there were only two other blind athletes who placed on the podium with third place. She is the only silver medalist. She lost her gold medal match to a competitor from Algeria, who fortunately or unfortunately is no longer allowed to compete in Paralympic judo with the new classification standards being introduced as of January 1st. Priscilla was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa when she was 2 years old and progressively lost her vision. She is now considered J1 athlete, which is the category of blind. And she was B1 athlete prior to this new classification kicked in. Priscilla represented Canada at Paralympic Games in Rio, where she took 5th place, and second Paralympic Games, Tokyo, 2nd place. And she is the flag bearer for Canada at the Tokyo Paralympic Games, which we consider great privilege for her, but also for our organization, for Judo Canada. I am the coach. I'm in judo since 1970. I was born in Poland, immigrated to Canada at the age of 33, and I represented Poland at the international stage between 1976 until 1987. We immigrated in 1988 from Poland, and I started to work for judo in Canada in 1990 in various capacities. Initially, I worked with the Olympic team. I coached the team in 1992 in Barcelona, in 1996 in Atlanta, after which I moved to different positions within our organization. I am a husband forever. I've already shared that with Archie, that probably before I finished my puberty, I met my wife and inherited kids, and then added more kids, and now I'm also a proud grandfather. And what you see on the picture is the proudest moment of my coaching career. This was very unusual situation because of the COVID pandemic in Tokyo. The medals were not distributed in a very classical, traditional way by dignitaries. Athletes who were blind were assisted by their coaches because we were living in the same bubble. And that was an unexpected privilege that I never asked for, but really something that resonates with me very much, that after so many years of being together and working together towards this beautiful goal, I was able to put the medal on Priscilla's neck, which makes me emotional even now. This is judo, actually, is not. This is a picture of athletes. Those pictures were taken during 2012 Olympic Games in London, where there was a major research done on a variety of different aspects of competitive sport across the board. And pictures of athletes representing different sports. Of course, you see the different body types here were taken, and they were classified as classical gymnast, classical boxer, classical runner, classical swimmer, etc. There was no classical judoka, because in judo, we actually have all of those body types in different weight divisions. So that generates a very spectacular spectrum of potential development of technical, tactical skills, because every athlete has actually the capacity to develop their own style based on their own technical preferences and abilities that is offered by their genetics. And finally, if you want to know more about blind sport and judo, you have access to International Blind Sport Association with information on the sport, and you also can find a lot of information about Paralympic judo and judo in general on Judo Canada website and a few other very accessible websites. So this is pretty much all that I wanted to share with you in advance of potential questions and answers. I will now stop sharing and hopefully we can go back to our screen. Yes, I'm back. Look at me. I've learned.
Thank you so much. Priscilla, do you want to add to anything Mr. Sadej had to say?
Well, I would add that everything he said is so well articulated, especially about the medal. And he says it makes him still emotional to this day. And it catches me by surprise because I'm not typically a very emotional person. But I catch myself talking about it at different speaking events, and I too get very emotional going back to that moment. And because of the interesting, unique dynamic of the special needs that are of being blind and different assistance that we need and the level of care, you do kind of develop closer friendships. And Andrzej has really become more than a coach to me, and Christina more than just my coach's wife. They've become like family, and I feel so close to them, and it's a relationship that will go beyond judo, beyond retirement. And I'm just forever grateful for that. And it's such a beautiful gift that judo has given me, and that I didn't expect.
Why judo? Why did you
I-
choose judo?
I've always been super active. I grew up with an older brother and we were always kind of roughhoused. I was really into wrestling in high school. And then when I graduated, there's no wrestling in the Paralympics, essentially. So I switched to another sport for the blind called goalball, and I was pretty good at it. I played on the national team for about a year, but it wasn't the same as combat. There's just something about being rough and and just being able to get it all out, and I love that. And so I went back to it. I thought, well, if there's no wrestling, I know there's judo, and I'm a little old, but I thought, why not? So, I mean, I had the background already of wrestling, so I had a little bit of an advantage there. And what was really appealing to me for judo, two things. One was the submissions. I was very excited to learn chokes and arm locks too, but mainly chokes. And then the second thing was that we could do it with able-bodied people. So that was really appealing to me. Goalball was very much all just visually impaired people, which is awesome. It's a great community. But I thought it was really neat that with judo, I can do the same thing as a fully sighted person, and we can even train together. And, and with very slight modifications, and I can be just as successful as they are. So I like that aspect a lot too.
Would you consider coaching at some point when you retire? Hopefully not yet.
I would love to be a coach's assistant or like a helper. I don't know that I have the gifting to be an actual coach for a couple of reasons. One, the visual aspect. I wouldn't be able to study their opponents. I wouldn't be able to study them as they move with their opponents. And so that kind of thing, I would want someone who can actually see and knows the sport very well. But I love to teach it. I love to teach it, especially to vision impaired people. One of my teammates, I love working with her. She's getting a little more and more competitive, and she's winning. But I just love working because I love to see progression, and for myself, it was going through the belt rankings. And with her, it's just so exciting to see her do one thing, and then within just minutes, she's doing something completely different. And it's really exciting to see.
And then if I heard correctly, in order to move up, I guess with the new rules for those that are blind versus those that are visually impaired, you needed to bulk up, right? How did that
Correct.
go? What did you do?
I'm still doing it. Judo Canada went ahead and got me a personal trainer. And so they pay this lady who helps me bulk up. We do a program called hypertrophy. And it's basically you're gaining a lot of muscle mass very quickly. It's very hard because I have to do it at the same time as judo. If it was one or the other, it would be a lot more tolerable on the body. But I think because of my age too, doing both at the same time is very challenging. So my goal at this point was to bulk up, number one, and stay in shape as far as cardio goes. And so that was mission accomplished. And then I wanted to get to 57. So the day of weigh-ins, I got about 1.5 kilos over, which was perfect without even trying. So that was really nice. And I'm going to continue doing it. I'm hoping to be able to increase my judo, though, at the same time, if I can get to a plateau where I can, because it is so hard. Your body's always sore when you're doing hypertrophy because your muscles are always growing. And the way they grow is by tearing, and then you feed them protein, and then they grow, and then you tear them, and then you feed them protein, and then they get so it's painful. You're always sore, but it's so worth it. It's complete. I love the results physically, and I love them on paper, and I love what I saw. It gave me the ability to do and be more competitive at Worlds.
I was wondering if you could touch upon a little bit about the new classification standards and that like deeper into your presentation, what it was, what it is, and how does that affect the field,
Do you want to take that, Andre, or do you want me to go?
You can start, I can add if needed, but can you lower the screen a little bit of your camera, because right now you are lower and lower, because you are heavier, you are sinking into your chair. Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah. Great.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sinking lower into my chair because I've gained so much. So for the vision classifications, I'll do it super basic. The old system was J1, J2, J3. So J1 is fully blind. J2 is so-so. You can kind of read. You kind of have a little bit of acuity, but it's difficult. B3 or J3 was the most you could see while still being classified as legally blind. So that one was a very difficult line that a lot of people flirted with, and a lot of countries that don't have the same level of ethics as we do will go ahead and put their able-bodied, some even world champions and national champion able-bodied, put them into the J3 category. Now, all three of them had to fight each other, J1, J2, J3. So if a blind person, J1, beat a J3, we got 10 points. If a blind person beats another blind person, you get 1 point. So that was their kind of way to try to make it a little bit more fair. But it really obviously didn't work. As you saw, there's not very many blind people on the podium. So the new classification, after a lot of research, they determined that people in the J3 category don't need a J3 category. They can function perfectly well in the able-bodied system, and their level of vision is not affected. Their judo is not affected by their level of vision. And then J1 and J2, to go even further, they made it so that the blind people fight the blind people and the partially sighted fight the partially sighted. So they never have to mix again. So which makes it so much nicer for people that do have more vision, that can see hand and eye coordination, that can play with the out of bounds lines as part of their strategy, or can see where to get in for a good position underneath their opponent to throw them, or whatever it might be. They fight each other. And then the blind people that are fully blind, they fight each other as well. And it changes judo, but it changes the atmosphere in the competition venue. I believe it does anyway. And everyone's really excited about it across the board, across nations. All the B1s, J1s, sorry, I keep saying B1s. All the J1s are very excited about it.
Yeah, I would add to it that Priscilla said it absolutely perfectly. The atmosphere in the Paralympic judo, when it talks to, we are talking about social transformation, it's a beautiful, noble principle of inclusion and tolerance, etc. But it really is very difficult to implement in the real life when the special needs are imposing special behavior and special compassionate behavior from people who are not in a need to accept this kind of challenges. So it's in some environments, this is a very well functioning principle that everybody lives together, works together, loves the fact that everybody is involved. But in very highly competitive environment of young athletes competing for their dreams in a high performance sport, some young athletes are not mature enough yet to understand what empathy means, and they just do not feel like spending time with athletes of special need, whatever the special needs may be, is a good investment of their time and effort. The Paralympic judo is a completely different reality. In the able-bodied judo, you go to international competition, and we have International Judo Federation includes 200 countries. In North America, judo is a relatively minor sport, but it is not minor sport in many countries of the world. In many countries, judoka are professionals, just like hockey players here or football players here. And when you meet this kind of environment, it's highly competitive. It's much more war games like than friendly games. And in the Paralympic judo, is the friendliness, the camaraderie between people who are competing against each other, but also are very good friends, is different. It's actually very encouraging environment to witness and see that people from different systems can be very good friends of each other and very supportive of each other. For example, in Baku, where we just came back from, one of our athletes, the only male athletes on the team, and my roommate tested positive for COVID, and he was separated from the rest of us. And for a day, I was under supervision, and I had to go through additional testing to make sure that I'm not infected also. If I were infected, I wouldn't be able to coach Priscilla and the other two female athletes at the World Championships. And immediately when that situation became known to my friends, colleagues from different countries, I had 3 different coaches who came to me and said, if you cannot be there, we are going to be there for her, and don't worry about it whatsoever, which in able-bodied sport practically wouldn't have a chance to happen. So I found that short video that I wanted to share with you, because I think it's very fun, because it's again demonstrating Priscilla, and she is actually promoting judo for not just visually impaired, but for judo in Canada. And I will, if you allow me, put it on as a short interaction into our discussion and question and answer, and you can actually think about other questions.
Perfect.
Are you okay with it?
Yes,
okay.
please.
So I'm going to share screen again, and this time it is going to be, I hope, the right one. And my mouse doesn't want to work on 2 screens. The reason I'm looking above, it's because my other screen is actually.
The judoka in a blue judogi takes down his opponent in a white judogi.
Please play in the audio description version.
By Jigoro Kano. A framed black and white photo of Jigoro is shown. Caption: Judo can be practiced by everybody. Even visually impaired persons can do judo. The judo referee leads Priscilla Gagné and her opponent to the center of the mats. They face each other, each one gripping the other's judogi. Caption: Judo is part of the Paralympic Games since Seoul 1988. Various clips are shown from Priscilla's World Championship bout versus her opponent from Uzbekistan. The ref declares Priscilla the winner. The women bow, then shake hands. Later, Priscilla stands on a podium with other judokas.
Hi, my name is Priscilla Gagné. I'm a Paralympian in the sport of judo. Did you know? In judo, we use Japanese to say all of our techniques. So all around the world, we speak the same language on the mat. Did you know judo is practiced in over 200 different countries, and that in Japan, gymnastics was not considered a practical sport, so they practiced judo in their schools. Did you know in judo we throw people instead of balls, and we can choke and even do unlocks? Well, now you know.
Caption: Judo, the gentle way. Priscilla demonstrates a takedown followed by a hold down. Later, she throws her training partner over her head. Caption: 4 ways to win a fight. Throws. Priscilla throws the training partner over her shoulder. In competition, the judoka throws his opponent over his shoulder. Caption: hold down.
While sitting on the ground, Priscilla flips her partner over, then holds her down. Caption, 20 seconds to win a fight. In competition, one judoka pins another. Caption, chokes. While knelt behind her partner, Priscilla wraps one arm around her partner's neck and secures her other arm behind the neck. In competition, one judoka chokes like another. Caption, arm locks. While lying on her side, Priscilla flips her partner while placing her legs over her partner's torso and pulls her arm. In competition, one judoka places another in an arm lock. In a different competition, Priscilla is declared the winner. She hugs her opponent. Caption, remember, anyone can do it. Yes, even you. Everyone is welcome. Anything is possible.
Well, I'm very proud of the fact that I was able to find it while we
That's amazing. Any other questions?
If I could ask a question, very interesting topic, and again, congratulations to the both of you. For Miss Priscilla, I want to ask that in having been named and having been the flag bearer for Canada, do you believe that you had an influence, how influential do you think you were in showing others with a similar condition as you who want to be involved in judo or any other athletic competitions, to show them, yes, you can do it. Even with what you have, you can be a very, very strong and successful competitor. How influential do you think you see yourself in that regard?
I don't know how influential I am necessarily, but I know that's my passion. That's my message. When I go to schools, when I go to different places to speak, that's my passion, is to show it doesn't matter what the obstacle is. You know, where there's a will, there's a way. Anything, and I really believe that. I wrote the script for that. Anything is possible. There's no doubt in my mind. You know, and it's to be named the flag bearer. To put it into perspective for everyone, this was about the time that they were discovering the bodies of the children that were mass graves here in Canada, the Indigenous population, and it was just becoming uncovered. You know, it was just starting to come out. That was about the time that I got named Canada's flag bearer. And I remember thinking how this is such an awkward time to be proud to carry the Canadian flag, you know, with what was going on in the news and learning more about our history here in Canada that I personally did not know. And the way I made peace with it was I had a very difficult training throughout COVID as a person with blindness, training in an integrated sport. Beyond my control and beyond Andrzej's control, I was separated from the Olympic bubble because of my vision, and because of, I guess, investments and things. The Olympic team had priority, and there was more funds for them to be able to train, to get COVID tested regularly so they could train regularly. And I was not a part of that group. So I, at first, couldn't barely train at all. I had to wear a mask, and then we had to travel in order to get proper training. And it was just such a difficult, and just going to the stores, going into Canadian Tire, going into the grocery store, I would be asked to leave, or I would be told I'm not allowed to be there because I have to social distance, which is impossible when you're being guided. I was told I have to use a buggy and a white cane at the same time because that's how they count. I mean, just ridiculous things that I have never encountered before in my life. And, you know, so, and I wasn't the only person from the para community that had encountered these things. So to be named Canada's flag bearer, having gone through all of that, you know, the competition is the easiest part. The training is so-so, but everything else up here, the experiences we have, the politics we have to fight through, it's almost more grueling than any match ever could be. And to be named Canada's flag bearer, I was so honored because I was proud to, people knew my story in my community, in the para community, they knew my story. And I was so proud to represent us as para Canadians and as Paralympic Canadians, who we had to all go through that together, even though we were separately going through it. We all dealt with it on some level. And that made me so proud. And I felt such an honor to be able to do that. And beyond that, the opening ceremonies, there's only the flag bearer and the immediate delegation that was allowed to go. So there's only 5 people, I think, maybe 6, the doctor, the security, my guide, me, and the chef de mission. We were the only ones allowed to attend to represent all of Canada. So I felt like I was walking not only with the flag to represent, but I was walking on behalf of all of the athletes that couldn't physically be there because of the rules. And so it's just such an honor and a privilege. And I really hope and pray that my story is remembered of perseverance, you know, of thinking outside the box, of forgiveness, because, you know, I had to learn to let it go. And just of the importance of working together. You know, I wouldn't have made it through without Andre. And I hope that's the story people remember when they see flag bearer, or they see any of my results, or see me competing in the future. I hope that's what they see. And I don't know what it is in reality, but I hope that's what they see. Sorry, that was the long-winded answer.
Any other questions or comments? Well, I have one. What is the difference between judo, karate, taekwondo, and why is it called the gentle way?
Yeah, Andre, why is it called the gentle way?
There is a lot of philosophy behind why judo is called this. Judo has a philosophy of maximum efficiency with minimum effort. That's one of the 2 major principles of judo. The second one is mutual welfare and benefit, which are 2 very beautiful social slogans that actually one is social, one is biomechanical. But indeed, when we learn judo, the technical perfection will require minimum use of energy. So when Priscilla trains new techniques and she is trying to do it to the best of her ability, she knows that it is done the right way when it's effortless. And anything that requires effort can be done better. And everything is, it's just the biomechanics of movements that is going to result in execution of a perfect technique. And that is the ideal judo. The reality of able-bodied judo is such that the level of competition is extremely high and the number of people competing at the highest level is very high. So the best players most of the time compete for a grip, because when somebody who is good has a grip on their opponent, they're going to execute a perfect technique relatively easy. In Paralympic judo, the grip is on. It's set at the beginning of the match. So there is not, that separates those 2 sports in a very dramatic way. So the gentle way is, from philosophical perspective, a really beautiful principle of our sport. The reality is there is a lot of very hard physical effort involved in every single match. The difference between karate and judo and taekwondo and judo is such that karate, taekwondo, or even boxing can be practiced, and people may feel good about themselves practicing by themselves against themselves. They can develop very good technical skills seeing themselves in the mirror. In judo, that is not possible. Judo cannot be practiced, cannot be made better without involvement of a partner. So every action requires cooperation with the partner or opposition of the partner. And I showed you the picture of variety of different body types in judo. Now, every body type is going to present different challenges to a judoka, because somebody who is short will have a completely different biomechanical capacities than somebody who is tall and lanky. So people are using those individual characteristics for their own development and for their own success, but also their opposition is using different characteristics for their success. So the difference, in short, judo is real. It's a real one-on-one combat sport, similar to wrestling, with one distinct difference, because in judo we had the judogi, which is practically a harness on the human body. Whichever way you apply the grip on the judogi is going to change the biomechanical principles of movement, whether the grip is close or far away, at the end of the sleeve or close to the lapel. The principles of movement change dramatically, and that generates a practically unlimited spectrum of technical and tactical developments for a judoka. That's why we always say judo, it's a lifetime experience, and you never stop learning judo regardless of how long you do it. Another winded long answer to a short question.
And if I could add to it, I would say in karate and taekwondo, there's striking, and in judo, there's absolutely no striking.
It's almost like a dance.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
With unwilling partners.
And Coach Andrzej, I believe you had some photographs you wanted to share. Did you want to share them?
I definitely will throw those photographs on the screen, and I will share with you a few anecdotes connected to those photographs, but please ask questions, because I find this kind of exchange of information actually much more provocative, thought provocative than just showing pictures. But again, I will show pictures now, and please interact or just jump in with questions at any time. So do you see the picture of Priscilla with a title on top?
Yeah.
2000 throwing technique?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so I've just put this compilation yesterday, advised by my wife. She said, make sure that you have some pictures, because every picture is worth 1,000 words, and that's indeed the case. So I don't have pictures from everything that happened in between, all of those events that happened between the beginning of Priscilla's and my journey together. But this is one of the first 2015 Pan American Games. They took place in Toronto, and Priscilla was still a brown belt, so she was still a student as opposed to a master, and already quite successful. After her first medal in Grand Prix in Budapest, she scored that year. She suddenly became a potential medalist in major events like this one. And she indeed ended up in the second place. This is her throwing technique against one of her opponents. Another match she won by strangulation. So that is the real strangulation, the real match against Argentinian opponent.
That's my favorite way to win a match, by the way. It's very satisfying when somebody taps out.
The next picture is a compilation of three. Priscilla with her silver medal by herself, with Alex Radoman, one of our athletes from our program who retired, who was a bronze medalist in Pan American Games, and obviously one with me. We like to hug always after, not just me, the Paralympic group of people, whether it's male or female. That's their way of showing appreciation. So there are matches that are very, very fierce matches on the mat, and they look like they try to rip out each other's heads, and the match is over, and then they hug each other. They cannot let go after the match is over. So the referee has to separate those two hugging females or males. That happens quite often.
Yeah, actually, just in Brazil in June, I hadn't seen this girl in a while. And we both went up to 57. She was so strong, and I was still light. I was still 53 kilos. So that's a pretty big difference. And she's short, so it makes it even more difficult. And it took everything in me to hold her down. I ended up winning, but it was so exhausting. I kind of rolled off of her after, and we're both laughing. And she's laughing too. And in Spanish, we're trying to say, "Oh, you're so strong." And then back and forth in the little Spanish I know. And the referee was just standing there listening, and he bends down and he says, "Ladies, thank you for this beautiful moment." We didn't even know he could hear us. But it's just that's the special thing about the para, is exactly it. You don't really see that in able body.
There is one question. It said, obviously the world is not fair and many things are corrupt in anything that is competitive. How do you reconcile for yourself some of the unfairness of how Paralympic judo has been judged in the past? It's wonderful that there have been so many positive changes for coming years.
Yeah, so for me, the way I handled it, because life in general isn't fair, and judo is a life lesson, and it's a great tool to use as a life lesson. Life in general isn't fair, and that's what we're always fighting for, is fairness and equality, and it's gonna be a forever fight. The way I reconciled it was two ways. The competitive side of me was saying, "Oh yeah, you think you can beat up on me because you have more vision? That's just means it'll be worth that much more to me when I beat you." That was the attitude, because there's no excuse. If you want to be a champion, you don't make space for excuse. You don't train any less hard, because it's just not going to be fair no matter what. No. You go for it all the time. You train for the best. You believe that you can still do it, no matter how difficult, no matter how unfair. And at the end of the day, for example, in Tokyo, when I fought the girl who got disqualified the very next competition she went to for her vision, she got the gold. And the way I reconcile it is, hey, I lasted 2 minutes with an able-bodied athlete on a Paralympic stage. And, that to me, that's something, And so, sure, I wanted the gold. Sure, it would have been so much better if it was a fair fight. But I have no regrets, and I have no animosity, no resentment or anything like that, because I did my job. I lasted strong too. Like, I wasn't just hanging on by a thread. I felt her movement, and everything was strong, but I wasn't afraid of her. And I knew the challenge ahead of me. I knew the uphill climb it would be to beat her. And I still lasted 2 minutes. So that's how I reconciled it. I don't know if Andrzej has a different answer to that, though.
No, not different answer to how you are dealing with this problem. My challenge was when I started to work with the Paralympic program, and for the first time, I've actually administered the program for many years prior to starting to coach athletes. But when first competition, the international competition I attended, I couldn't believe my eyes. I was so angry that this is allowed to happen, that this unfairness is being tolerated, that I immediately started to work towards rectifying this problem. And I'm very proud of the fact I'm advisor to the president of the International Blind Sport Association Judo Federation now, and I was instrumental in making sure that research started and the research continued, and the outcome of the research is the split of the blind from visually impaired, and elimination of many athletes who didn't belong in this movement from the very beginning. For me, the unfairness in the Paralympic movement went way beyond the lack of ethical standards in able-bodied sports, which we know it's full of people who are trying to cheat and gain advantage with drugs, etc. But now you introduce a completely new dimension of unfairness and lack of understanding of what humanity is supposed to be, by introducing yourself as able-bodied person into Paralympic movement for monetary gains, but because that's what it is. Athletes from those countries that benefited from this kind of performances are very well compensated financially. And I will not go into details because there is a lot to say about this, but the next picture you see is from the opening ceremony of the Paralympic Games in Rio this time with another Paralympian, Tony Wolby, who also is now B1, different genetic disorder from Priscilla, but also lost his vision. And at one point of time was a fully functional, able-bodied judoka. So
I think he was a police officer even.
he was a police officer. When he was police officer, he, the medical community detected that he has visual and hearing impairment, and that's how he learned that he has a genetic disorder that is going to render him blind and deaf, and it happened very quickly in Tony's case. The next picture is Pan American Championships, yes, 2018. Another Paralympian, Justin Karn. Both of them, Priscilla and Justin, won the Continental Championships in Calgary in 2018. And you see the picture of Priscilla now behind. That is one of the posters that Judo Canada produced in promotion of this event. By the way, in Canada, we organized 3 in a row Pan American Championships for blind athletes, and all of them are exceptionally organized in a fully integrated format. Nobody before us did that, and nobody since that time did it. We are organizing it side by side with able-bodied competition. The next one is happening in 3 weeks in Edmonton, Alberta, again, because no one else wanted to organize it. We organize it, and it's going to be again organized one mat, Paralympic judo mat, side by side with able-bodied judo national championships. So that's our contribution to the fairness and to the social transformation, to acceptance, to understanding, to tolerance, to greater level of empathy, greater level of compassion. I must also say that Priscilla is trailblazer. She is the first female who was a Paralympian in our program, and she is the first female who went to the National Training Center to work side by side with 100 able-bodied athletes on the mat daily. And that was, from the very beginning, a huge challenge for her, and on a variety of levels, which we are not going to dwell on. But the reality is that the initial few years were difficult. Now it's becoming a little bit easier, because the next generation of young people who are coming into the system when Priscilla is there, and she is somebody in the system. She is a very successful athlete, and they have a different understanding. So the social transformation, when you talk about it, it's not going to happen because we have beautiful slogans and beautiful ideas and ethical thinking. It has to change from the bottom up. It has to change. The behavior and understanding of the individuals involved at every level has to change, and only then it will happen really. So that was a digression on a bigger topic. But next picture is from the World Championships in 2018, and I must admit I worked with this phenomenal young woman, and I hoped for the best, but I did not believe deep in my heart. I always knew that it will be unbelievable uphill battle against able-bodied athletes. And in 2018 at this World Championships, Priscilla beat, in the process of going through the medals, she beat former 2 world champions who were visually impaired but not blind. And she placed on the podium, the first ever medal performance from Canadian Paralympic judoka. And that is a phenomenal performance for her. Over here, she is strangling actually a former world champion from Russia, Stepaniuk. And over here, she is actually throwing for Ippon for beautiful throw, Uzbekistani athlete who also is already disqualified for cheating on the visual impairment. And that is the athlete whom Priscilla lost her bronze medal in Rio. So that was a sweet revenge for her.
Actually, there was another sweet revenge, though. I think it was the first one in Tashkent, her hometown. I strangled her in her hometown.
Yeah, but that was after.
Was that after?
2019, Priscilla met this Uzbekistan athlete once again in a semi-final of Grand Prix in Tashkent. And in Tashkent, former Soviet Republic, judo is very popular, so it was full stadium of people, and everybody was cheering for the Uzbekistani athlete, and Priscilla strangled her. She had to submit, and that was a very sweet moment also. I don't have pictures of that from that particular.
No, they probably didn't take pictures of that.
This is the medal podium, so you can see that this is a real event, big stage, and nice presentation for the medalists. And there is more story to it, because I could tell you stories about the 3 people standing beside Priscilla on the podium, but it would take a long time and might be repetitive. Here is Tokyo. We are at the competition venue in Tokyo already, and Priscilla is here in preparation for the competition with sparring partner that is a Canadian who is Priscilla's friend, guide, and she is also a coach. She's from Alberta, and former national champion, multiple national champion in Priscilla's weight division, and they are good friends. And Laurie Wilshire was also a guide, guiding Priscilla during the opening ceremony for the Tokyo Olympic Games. So those are good friends, and phenomenal relationship that helps Priscilla to compete at this highest level. So those 5 pictures here, different parts of the warm-up and different parts of the competition day. And then her quarterfinal match in Tokyo against the same Russian she competed against already. This time the Russian is really well prepared and exploiting every possible option to beat the blind athlete, and Priscilla still prevailed, beating the Russian by half a point. With this action she scored and was successfully defending until the rest of the match. And here is a match against the German. I spoke, twice Paralympic champion in the past, and multiple matches against Priscilla, always won by the German. And Priscilla executed 2 perfect techniques to the opposite side that the German did not expect. And in 25 seconds, she scored twice. The second technique that you see over here, the German in the process hurt her knee, but she still competed later on for medals. But again, that was phenomenal for us, because we practiced a lot. Priscilla was practicing the same drills over and over until she no longer liked it.
My ADD was really bored.
But it's you practice for this kind of moments when everything comes together, and when you are competing against somebody who is so dominant in the past, and then you beat them decisively.
It was so worth it.
And that's it. That's the medal presentation. I did not post it with the gold medalist who would appear on this screen later on, because frankly, the gold medalist didn't belong in the games. And that's all. That is the end of the pictures that I've prepared for this medal, for this presentation. Stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Carolina.
Well, I know we're all super honored to have you both here. It is a privilege, actually, and I say this, I know in the name of Artivism and personally, to count with your presence here today, that you're giving Artivism this space and time to share all this marvelous experience. It's truly an honor, a pleasure. Thank you for that. Before we close up the event for today, we have a tradition here in Artivism that we ask our presenters what will be one key takeaway from today's presentation for an action item for our audience. And now we would like to ask that to you, each one of you. What would you say is your main key takeaway for today's presentation?
Do you mean us, Andre and I?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I would say, if nothing else on my part, to remember adapting and pushing through, perseverance, not allowing life circumstance to to steal our dreams, to steal our joy, our zeal of following our dreams, but to continue persevering through it, thinking outside the box, and never taking one moment for granted.
And I must say that I see in the chat that somebody stole my account and on my behalf telling me that we are amazing. So thank you very much, whoever it is. I honestly did not expect to be invited to Artivism because, you know, after all, it's a combat sport. And when my family got involved with you, Arjay and Carolina, and they suggested that we could do that, I kind of hesitated. I thought that it is perhaps not the right forum, but any forum is the right forum, I think. And if we are talking about social transformation, there is no better example of the impact that Priscilla shared with you on her life and the life of the people who are you know, witnessing what is happening. That is probably the only way that the social transformation is going to happen. As she says, you know, we just have to endure and be tolerant, be understanding that, you know, the barriers to transformation, to inclusion, are not because of ill feelings or lack of desire. It's most likely because of lack of education, lack of contact, lack of exposure, etc. So that's the takeaway I take from this meeting. And sorry, Carolina, but you threw it at us without warning, so we're not able to.
No, those were marvelous. And I mean, I wish we had more time because I still have so many questions for you guys. Perhaps we can do a part 2 because the topic, it's incredible. And, you know, at least on my end, I know I have a couple of questions that need to be answered in regards to, let's say, like administration and how you were discussing the Olympics versus the Paralympics funding and the training possibilities, and perhaps like how to get new policies and regulations in our, you know, constituencies and towns to push for that change, right? It could be a movement where it is more noted to be more inclusive about equality in sports as well.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, because inclusivity amongst the disabled population is no longer a nice word, you know, because it's been thrown about and we don't see the change. It's been used for other things. So I really do, yeah, part 2 could definitely, there'd be a lot to say in a part 2.
Yes, definitely. This is just a tip, just a little taste, and we want to wish you many more successes. You're an inspiration. I mean, on the photographs, we see your strength, your passion, it comes through. I wish I could go see you in person in one of your matches. So anytime we might be around, you know, in the same location, that would be like a dream to see it in person, definitely.
Well, you never know what the future brings.
In the chat, just very quickly, Dr. Sorokin says, very inspiring. Thank you. And he supports a call for part 2. Panayoti says, thank you both for the presentation. Thank you both. You're both very inspiring, very brave. You're taking action. You're not just talking about change. You are the change. Thank you. And we do look forward to part 2. Just as a reminder, next week on the 28th, on Monday, Miko Els will present his research, Orchestrating Activism, Notes on Music, Audience, and History from the 1930s Brazil. He uses the case of fired band leader Alfredo Perez as an opportunity to see how musical work was not above the fray of polarized politics. Wells then reflects on insights the case might offer those working towards social activism today. So for more information on Artivism, you could just go to adelphi.edu/Artivism. You could see past videos on our YouTube channel, Artivism for Shared Humanity, the same for Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much. Thank you, Priscilla. You are really something, really something. Thank you. And of course, Coach Sadej, my God, I think every discipline should have a coach or a mentor like you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Carolina, anything else?
Thank you.
Anything from our
No,
audience?
thank you to our audience. And now the holidays are approaching. Happy holidays to all around the world, and stay in touch. We'll reconvene again next Monday and take it from there to see how we can all be that change, like Professor Archie said, that Ms. Gagné and Coach Sadej are doing in judo. How can you also be part of this transformation for a more dignified and meaningful coexistence?
Thank you once again for the opportunity. Thanks,
Thank
Pris.
you. Have a good night. Bye,
Thank
Priscilla. It
you.
was great meeting you.
It was so great meeting you all. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.